like that. Good afternoon. Please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you won't be confused when I tell you that I have just met with the representatives of NATO and we talked about the movies. I am, of course, referring to a somewhat different NATO than we usually discuss around here, the National Association of Theater Owners. We had a very good discussion, and I want to thank NATO President Bill Kartosian and his colleagues who are here with him for the efforts they are making to make sure that we work together to prevent youth violence, and the ways the theater industry in particular can help in that cause. It has been less than 2 months since the tragedy at Columbine High School seared itself into our national consciousness. Ever since that day, our country has been moving steadily away from a culture of youth violence toward creating the kind of future we want for our children. People from all walks of life are coming together in a national grassroots campaign to prevent youth violence, to give our children the childhoods they deserve. We all know that parents are the first and most important influences on their children, but we know too that the demands on them are increasing, and as more and more parents work outside the home, they have less and less time with their children. On average, families now have a life in which parents spend about 22 hours a week less at home than parents did a generation ago. Over the 18 years of a child's childhood, that amounts to more than 2 years' time. Since my first days as president, we have worked hard to help parents better balance the demands of home and work. One of the ways we've tried to do that is to give parents better tools to make immediate but informed judgments about the shows their children watch, the music they hear, the video games they play. We've worked hard to give parents new tools like the V-chip, which by the end of next month will be in half the new television sets sold in America, and will help parents to block violent programming from their living rooms. We've also made progress on parental screening for the internet and ratings for internet game sites. But we must do more. We must ensure that children are not the targets of violence in marketing. That's why last week I asked the Department of Justice and the Federal Trade Commission to study the extent to which the video game, movie, and music industries market violence to children, and whether those industries are abiding by their own voluntary systems of regulation. For rating systems to work, they must also be enforced, not simply by watchful parents, but by retailers at the point of sales and theater owners at the multiplex. The great thing about the multiplex is that there's a movie for every member of the family, but not every movie is for every member of the family. When you drop them off, you shouldn't have to worry about your G-rated kids getting into violent or suggestive R-rated movies. But too often, children do get past the ticket counter, unescorted and underage. I'm pleased to announce today the theater owners are clearly drawing the line. The nation's largest group of theater owners has agreed to ask young people for IDs at R-rated movies. From now on, parents will know that the R rating means what it is supposed to mean, restricted, no one under 17 without a parent or guardian, and no exceptions. Last month, when I challenged the theater owners to step up to this responsibility, I could only have hoped that they would respond so quickly. So again, let me applaud Bill Kartosian, his organization, and all their members for doing their part. I know we have parents here representing the PTA, and I want to thank them for coming, and I know they join me in applauding this action. Let me also say that I hope that as the recess ends, the Congress will do its part. Next week, the House will take up important legislation already passed by the Senate to help prevent youth violence by common sense measures to keep guns out of the hands of children. They close the deadly gun show loophole, require that safety locks be sold with every handgun, ban the importation of large capacity ammunition clips, and ban violent juveniles from owning guns as adults. I strongly urge the House not to riddle this legislation with loopholes or to delay, but to pass the law and pass it quickly. Let me also say I hope others will follow the lead of the theater owners. In our growing national campaign to prevent youth violence, none can stand aside, none should stand in the way. In the weeks and months ahead, we will continue to move forward as one nation, striving to build that better future we all want for our children. Now I'd like to ask Bill Kartosian to tell us more about the steps the theater owners have agreed to take. Let's give him a big hand. Mr. Kartosian. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President, and we thank you for the leadership that you've shown on this issue, as well as the members of Congress with whom we've been working. All of us, I believe, have had our sensibilities heightened since the recent tragedies at Columbine and in Georgia. And we as theater owners feel our responsibilities as keenly as does anybody. I would like to tell you a little bit about what we intend to do, but first just briefly describe the National Association of Theater Owners. We represent about 20,000 screens, about 2/3 of the screens in the United States. We have about 700 members. They are all over the country. They're a very diverse group, very large circuits to very small independents, the mom and pop operators, many of whom are in your hometowns, I'm sure. We live in the communities that we serve, and we want to be a part of those communities and be a part of the solution to whatever problems may be going on in your communities. We really want to emphasize 3 points today: enforcement, education, and cooperation. The history of the voluntary rating system is a long one. It's been around for 30 years. And the basis of it is a cooperative participation and partnership with the parents of America. The movies are rated so that parents know what is appropriate and what is not appropriate for their children to view. It's a voluntary system, and it only works if everybody carries out their responsibilities. Over the years, theater owners have turned away millions and millions of dollars in business, and to the best of my knowledge, we're the only industry that voluntarily does such. The new part of what we intend to do at this point is to institute a national photo identification policy at the box offices. We intend for every young person who comes to the box office to see an R-rated film to be asked to show a photo ID. We think that this will go a long way towards alleviating the point that the President made, and we believe that this will go a long way in carrying out our responsibilities to the parents of America. We will also have posters at the box office advising the public of what our position is and that young people had best be ready to show their ID. Incidentally, in every state except Massachusetts, you either have a driver's license or another form of ID available at age 17. In addition to the enforcement, we are going to conduct an educational outreach. We have for years worked with the National Council of Churches and the U.S. Catholic Conference in implementing the code and rating system. We will continue to do this. We will intensify our efforts. We will outreach to parent groups and to community groups and really to educate people as to what we believe our responsibilities and theirs are so that our partnership can work appropriately. Finally, we want to stress cooperation. We endorse the idea of national studies of the causes of teen violence, and we believe it to be a good idea to examine all factors which go into this very critical problem. We will participate in whatever studies we're asked to participate with. We may well conduct our own studies. But those 3 points, enforcement, education, and cooperation, I believe will go a long way in helping discharge our responsibilities as part of the greater community to help alleviate the dreadful problems we've been encountering in the last several months. Again, I want to thank President Clinton for his leadership, and I want to thank all the members of our association who have pledged their cooperation in carrying out this new program. Thank you very much.
Put that on again. I want the press to see. That's great. Who is that? I'm so glad you have it. That's great. This is great. You know, I think we could all use those at the White House. Make us feel better. Good for you.
President, are you optimistic on Kosovo?
Well, I'm hopeful. You know, we've got to have the military meeting to work out the details. But the G8 statement is good.
And how quickly could the peacekeepers go in, do you think?
Well, they're working out the details, I hope, shortly, and then we'll know. Thanks.